What made the Great Depression last so long? There are many overly simplistic views about the Great Depression, such as nemesis, speculation, lack of innovation, and the free market. While we tend to view the Great Deal as the policy which helped to end the economic disaster of the 1930s, in many ways, government policies were responsible for the prolonged nature of the Great Depression. These policies are 1. The gold standard, 2. Globalization, and 3. Government intervention. Number 1. The gold standard. The unusually prolonged and difficult nature of the Great Depression was a result of post-war, which was World War I, gold policies amongst the great powers. Money is a medium of exchange. It has had several forms throughout history. Pieces of precious metal, which was not very efficient because people could make cheaper metal appear to be more precious. Marked money, usually with a face or seal, such as in Bible times during the life of Jesus when money had the face of Caesar on it, and certificates that stood for gold in the bank, which was a precursor to the dollar bill. In 1925 to 1926, the United Kingdom and France went back on the gold standard. France's gold policies after World War I. France was still off the gold standard until 1926, when the French government was concerned by the weakness of French exports. They went back on the gold standard and bought up all the gold they could get their hands on. This made French products very cheap, but it also made it impossible for the French to buy foreign goods. Because France went back on the gold standard, U.S. and the world saw a deflation of nearly 30%. This ended up leading to the Great Depression. Part of Americans' problems was that the government wasn't willing to get rid of the gold standard. John Maynard Keynes said, "Anything except suspending the gold standard. That is too drastic to contemplate." End quote. Number 2. Globalization. Industrialization, the lasting impacts of World War I, and the benefits of the gold standard had allowed the global economy to grow, entangled without much thought being put into how one country's economic decisions might impact another's. There was lots of damage in Europe after World War I, since that is where World War I was mainly fought. Most of the casualties were from Europe, and though we think America had a lot, there were very few compared to England and France. Because Europe was such a mess after World War I, America had to take control over Europe and had to run it. But they were terrible at it. Most Americans only speak English fluently, and most don't speak another language. While in the United Kingdom, who had been controlling Europe until America stepped in, most of their citizens spoke at least 2 languages fluently, along with the rest of Europe. America also didn't want to take it over because they didn't have the connections to other countries such as England, like England did. Dr. Karl Streeckwerda said, quote, "The major reason for the decline was the shift of the center of finance from Britain to the United States." Number 3. The government's effort government interventions. The government's effort to solving the problem of the Great Depression misdiagnosed the problem and, as a result, spent much of its money and effort on ineffectual solutions, which in turn slowed recovery. The New Deal was created by Franklin Delano Roosevelt soon after he came into office. Dr. M. Santos said, quote, "As to the New Deal, I believe that it has been a failure, as it has protected the trusts more than the American people." End quote. The New Deal provided labor camps. These camps built many of the buildings and other stuff at national parks. They also built airports and repaired roads and did other jobs like that. These camps were made for anyone who was unemployed, which meant no one used the skills that they were given by God. This New Deal was also unpredictable, and no one knew where to invest their money. So what actually ended the Great Depression? Many think it was World War II, and in some ways it was, because Roosevelt's fear of losing the war led him to get rid of many of his financial advisors and put more traditional businessmen in their place. But World War II was not the main cause of the ending of the Great Depression. There are many overly simplistic views about the Great Depression, such as nemesis, speculation, lack of innovation, and the free market. While we tend to view the Great Deal as the policy which helped to end the economic disaster of the 1930s, in many ways, government policies were responsible for the prolonged nature of the Great Depression. These policies are 1. The Golden Standard, 2. Globalization, and 3. Government intervention.